Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the ranking member. Thanks also to our witnesses for being here to testify and for your service. Mr. Anderson, thank you so much for reaching out to my office and for sitting down and answering many of my questions in advance of the hearing. I really appreciate it. Today is the 62nd day of the government shutdown that has impacted the Department of Homeland Security. And I think it's really important for all of us to have some context in mind. Project 2025, I'm on the Budget Committee, and yesterday, Russell Vogt, the architect of Project 2025, came and sat before our Budget Committee. And in Project 2025, there was a call for the privatization of TSA. We know that the One Big Beautiful Bill provided $190 billion for the Department of Homeland Security. That funding was pretty specific, but we've also seen the president move money around routinely within that bill. He moved money around in order to fund federal law enforcement agents under DHS, but not the support personnel that offer support within CBP and other agencies, not for CISA, not for a number of other agencies within DHS. The interesting question, I think, is why the president chose to fund some positions and not all positions. I guess that's a question for him. And despite the fact that TSA agents play such an important national security role, he chose not to pay TSA agents until the very end. And even now, there are still support personnel that aren't getting paid. Last year, Acting Administrator McNeill, when you were before us, I asked explicitly about the Project 2025 plan to privatize the TSA, and you told me that nothing was off the table. The president's budget this year reduces TSA's budget by $52 million and begins that privatization process. I can tell you the TSA agents in my district are incredibly dedicated, incredibly hardworking. They do not want to see TSA privatized. What can you share with the hardworking federal workforce within TSA about the efforts to privatize?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for that question. As I mentioned last year, the SPP program has always been part of the Transportation Security Administration since its founding. Today, we have 20 airports that operate under the SPP program. The president's budget looks to advance that public-private partnership and expand that to other airports. And what we saw over the course of the multiple shutdowns this year is that as call-out rates went up, the longer the shutdown went on, we had to put on the table very real considerations as to how we were going to continue operating across the 440 airports across the nation. And every day we had to make calls on whether or not there would be call-out rates at a level where we might not be able to operate certain airports and checkpoints. And that is particularly acute for smaller airports that have 1 to 2 lanes in many instances, where a call-out of just a few people would force us to have to shut down that operation. Now, in comparison—
I'm running out of time, ma'am. Can you give me specifics about the privatization plan?
Yes, and I mentioned to Ranking Member Cuellar that a legislative proposal is being developed, and once that's submitted, we're happy to come in and brief you on it.
Okay, so there's nothing you can share right now about the proposal that y'all are working on?
I mean, the president's proposal looks at Category 3 and 4 airports.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I think it's important to point out to everyone that on our side of the aisle, we asked our colleagues to fund everything but what the president chose to fund with the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. The Senate passed that bipartisan compromise. I think many of us were ready to vote on that bipartisan compromise on our side of the aisle. No one likes shutdowns, and I look forward to reviewing the privatization plans very closely. I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.